I just played an incredible game that I want to share my joy with you. This game took me to 2400 again, and this is my highest rating so far by now. I checked this game with engine. Engine says that I had accuracy of 96.9%. That's pretty high for such a wild game. Just seated and position. If you have a better engine, you know you can, or better PC that you can evaluate it better, let me know what you get about the evaluation of this game. Okay, let's go to the game. Game is a little bit insane. It starts with very calm and slow opening English, symmetric variation, c4 c5, g3 is not, but g6 is not by far knight c3, and then in response, g6 is not the most common move, but it is one of the top 3 moves, and all moves so far are basically book moves. So I don't go into detail right now. We are getting to the part that we don't know theory much, but we just play by intuition. Here I didn't know what to do. I couldn't develop my bishop, right? And then I said that what I do, I will grab the space. I play e6, prevent his knight to coming to d5, and then if his knight comes to d5, of course I can take the knight, but the problem is that when he takes back, I don't have any space for my other knight. I should retreat it. So I said that okay, let's prevent this, and then after that I can develop bishop, and also I can wait if he wants to play d4 or not. But he didn't play d4, so I said okay, let's start to develop queenside pawns. I don't have anything to attack kingside, no target, but queenside is mine. My bishop points to this, and my knight is there, my rook is there, and my other bishop can join. So I prepared, and first I played queen c7 to because when I push b5, I should be careful about possible e5 pawn e5 by my opponent, because then he releases his bishop diagonal is open and he can attack my knight, so I don't want to blunder anything. I played queen c7. Also at some point maybe I play bishop d7, queen takes care of pawn on d6. So if queen is in d8 and then bishop c7 d7, then queen is cut and I cannot defend the d6 pawn. So to prevent everything, I played queen c7, and as you can see, all these moves are played almost automatically so far by me and my opponent, with minimum thinking time, like 2 seconds for queen c7. These are just natural moves so far. And then I go for my plan, expanding queenside and destroying my opponent's possible pawn structure. It's not very easy to destroy it because he simply plays b3, and if I take that pawn, it's not so interesting. So I started to maneuver my knight, release my bishop. As you can see, 2 moves ago, 3 moves ago, he moved his rook away because he didn't want to be x-rayed by my bishop. So I keep the tension on b file, because if I take that pawn, there is nothing I don't have anything to play, no counterplay. He starts to push. Also, this knight d7 is again somehow natural move that I played, not just opening the bishop line, but also he will play f4, f5, and so on. This is what is plan of white, just to attack the king side, and plan of black is queen side. And I take away my knight from the possible attacks because I didn't want to defend my knight all the time. Also, this way I put my knight into attacking to the queen side, but it takes time to attack queen side. Now my opponent plays the critical f4 move. That's a good move. I push this knight, What was my plan? I said either it's knight, this knight goes to a5 and a4, sorry, a4, and it's out of the game, or it doesn't. In the case that it doesn't go, I start to push the a pawn forward and continue my plan of expanding queenside. If it goes to a4, then he has one less attacker. So that's a good idea for me, because he couldn't simply attack my king side. He didn't go to a4 because he wanted to put more attacker towards my kings. I start to expand. He pushes the pawn. What should I have done at this moment? I could have gone rook a8 and continue expanding the pawn, but again I was afraid at some point maybe I take the f pawn with my e pawn, for example, or g pawn, depending to the situation, and then he takes back with his e pawn, and then again I'm under x-ray of his bishop on g2. So I thought about it for a moment, okay, whether I should play rook a8 or is it dangerous or not. I said, okay, let's take the safe side. Don't let him in a counterplay when I want to expand. And then he started to attack to my king side further. First, the very good idea by white is to exchange the strong black squared bishop with his black escort bishop. This has some positive and negative points for black. Positive point is that my black escorted bishop is strong on paper, but actually it is not so strong right now. It is strong only because it is against its black escorted bishop. No, otherwise I don't have any target. I don't even have any check right now, so it's not a super strong piece. It's doing nothing but just countering its bishop. So I wasn't afraid of exchanging this bishop, and I say that, okay, before I play rook a8, let's grab that space, because he wants to exchange his bishop with my bishop. That's cool. My knight can stay in e5, and he cannot take it, push it away, because this knight will be there forever unless he exchange it with other knight. He cannot push it with pawn. He cannot take it with bishop because he wants to exchange the bishop with my bishop. I said, okay, you go ahead and exchange bishops, but my knight is there. Even if he keep his bishop and try to exchange the bishop with knight, the other knight jumps there. So I use this spot before I play my rook a8 idea. He exchanged the bishop and he pushed. I didn't have a chance to play rook a8. I had to take back this pawn. It's good for me because opens. I have a semi-open file for queen. C file is semi-open, and this knight is not well placed here because it can go under x-ray of my queen, but in some sense it is well placed. Just imagine that he takes my e pawn, then I take his pawn back with the f pawn. This is a complete blunder because he takes pawn with the knight and says check and takes my queen. So I had to be careful at this moment. I didn't want to let him to open up, so I tried to keep the game as close as possible, and this pawn exchange was just for this reason. So for no tactical maneuver, all was like positional maneuvers. But you can see his position is shaking right now. He has no chance right now except to take this pawn. No other good move except to take my pawn, I believe, because I just won a pawn, right? He should take it back. And what happens once he takes back? I take his bishop. I exchange bishop with bishop. That's very good for me because his bishop is very strong and prevents my rook a8, all of my plans, and defends his king. And it is one of the only defensive force of his king. I have good defensive forces, like I have two knights around my king, a rook around my king. He has just heavy pieces around his king, like two rook and queen They are not very good in defense. Okay, there is an idea at D1 it can join defensive force, but that's just the only minor piece. No pawn, good pawn structure. So at this moment, I felt that I'm doing better, and if black and white has anything, is to push the pawn on f6 and place the queen h6 and deliver mate at g7. Yes, but of course you cannot push the pawn right now because I take it with the knight. He had to add more attackers, and first of all I took that bishop. That was too strong, and then I pinned this knight. I pinned the knight. I told you this knight is not in a very good place. It was at a few moves ago. Let's go back. It was very ambitious move like to play knight there, and then if I blunder and he wins the queen, right? If I blunder, for example, I do something I don't know. I play. I didn't open engine so far, but for example, at this moment, if I play something like that, this is a big blunder because it takes. Then if I do the next blunder and see engine says just move the knight. If I do the next blunder and take it, this is the end of a day, right? At that time, it was very nice to place the knight there, but in long run, it is not nice. Let's close the engine. In long run, it wasn't nice because I wasn't the person who falls for such an obvious blunder. Okay, maybe sometimes I fall, but I had 2 minutes on clock and it was very hard to fall for it. In time pressure, yeah, of course. And then I played this move and exchanged the bishop and pinned the knight. Now he is trying to go for his plan. First, he unpinned the knight, right? And this is this move has two reasons. It's not just unpinning the knight, it is also saying that I want to push the f4. I said, okay, but you went into the fork. You went into a bad fork right now. What is a fork? It's this move. This is a fork. And he was like, oh, this guy is crazy. He's getting mated, but then he forks me. So he first gives check. I could have captured this pawn and say that, okay, you won't mate me anytime soon, but I said that I have this as my last resource. Whenever he plays queen h6, I will capture this pawn with the knight. Still, I'm doing good. So what I did, I just moved the king away, and he moved the queen from my knight attack. What do you expect? He wants to play queen h6, right? He says that, okay, I take the knight with the check, but then the next move I made. But I just took his rook. I didn't do anything against queen h6. I had a resource. Knight takes f6. And you see, I did it very quickly. 2 seconds, right? Now you can see it in the bottom, the timestamp. And he went insane. Just imagine what happens here. Let me know what you get here. Suppose he goes queen h6. Why this is bad move? Because first I take his knight with check, then I take the pawn on f6, and everything falls apart. So he went insane and played knight f5. This is basically the last move of the game, because at this moment I just took his queen and he had nothing to play against. And after taking the knight as well, if he captures my knight, I'm happy because I capture his pawn, f6 pawn, and he has nothing, and I'm a full rook up, plus possibly soon some pawns. This was a very critical move that he didn't see. This knight on the knight that I placed on e5 long before to open up my bishop diagonal against his bishop diagonal. It was multi-purpose move. This knight in the center is really monster. And interestingly, unlike my knight, his knight was just useless piece because it was under pin. That was very bad for him. If it wasn't pinned, then it was maybe no, he was maybe able to do something with that knight. And yes, and this game ended that easily. Yeah, you see how wild the game went. Like you don't expect this from London system, and such a wild game from London system. And I hope you enjoyed. That's it. That's the joy that I wanted to share with you.